Hi guys, Mr. Parsons here. As you know, this next lesson today is lesson 2, and we're going to be moving on to another component of fitness and looking at the methods of training to try and improve that. But first, we've got your connect activity. Okay, all I want you to do is work through this on your own first. On the next slide, we'll be going through the answers. So I'm trusting you guys really to have a go at it first, see what you know. Can you use your revision guides to help you? Then we'll go through it on the next slide. Okay, give an advantage of fartlek training. It's pretty simple to use, okay? When you go outside, there's different surfaces you can use, grass, gravel, on a park. There's loads of different surfaces it's easy to change your speed up. Remember that fartlek stands for speed play. Okay, so it's really simple to use. It can be used for a variety of sports. Okay, so different sports that need different components of fitness. It can be altered and varied, that key word, in order to fit that sport. It can also help to improve aerobic endurance and speed. So think of sports which need both of those. There's a range of different sports. Give a disadvantage of plyometric training. It can be complicated to follow. Okay? Really, if you're changing it up and you're trying to increase intensity and all that, you need to be very organised and make sure the sessions are planned. Risk of injury if not correctly applied. And only applies to one component of fitness, which is power. What does the cool down include? Gentle aerobic exercise, static stretches. Remember, it's static stretches for your cool down. Name the training methods for flexibility. This is what we're going to be looking at today. So if you didn't know, you will know by the end of this lesson. PNF stretching, ballistic stretching, what does adaptation mean? It's changing your training to meet your improvements. Okay. How could I use frequency in my training program? You could train more or less often. For example, increasing training days from 2 to 3. Decrease those rest days. You could start off on a training program only working one or two times a week. By week 4, 5 or 6 you could be working 4 or 5 days a week with 2 rest days. Last question. Mr. Charman is a world-class cricketer and is renowned for having great speed and muscular strength. Name 3 other physical components of fitness. So remember, that's beta FM. He would need to improve his performance. Right guys, as I've said, today's title is training flexibility. Okay, so methods of training that you can use to improve your flexibility. It's part of Learn A and B. Okay, and success criteria is for you to be able to understand and identify the methods of training associated with flexibility. Can you relate the fit principles to flexibility training? And we need to be able to always explain the advantages and disadvantages associated with each method of training we're learning. Also look at the key vocab. That's part of it. As in your exam, you will need to recognise these words. Okay, so the informed stage. First of all, we've got static stretching. Okay, and really important here, there are two types of static flexibility training. Okay, so firstly, you've got active stretching. This is performed independently on your own, where the performer applies an internal force to stretch and lengthen the muscle. Okay, so you're on your own, there's no help, and you are static stretching. Okay, and the second is passive stretching, also known as assisted stretching. So it requires the help of another person or an object such as a wall. Okay, so you could be leaning up the wall, stretching your calves. You could be pushing against another person. Another person involved for you to perform a static stretch. The way I always remembered this for the exam is one of them's on your own, active, and one of them's with another person, passive. If you think about it in sport, a pass is made to another person, so passive, it means another person. Okay, that's the way I always remembered it. Okay, little task to think about while you're thinking about these and making notes. Can you describe two other active stretches, and when might you see assisted stretches taking place? Moving on. Some more definitions for you. Okay. These are what you might see in the exam, and you might have to choose whether it's an active or a passive stretch. So make sure you get a note of this down. Another method is ballistic stretching. Okay, this is where the performer makes fast, jerky movements through the complete range of motion, usually in the form of bobbing or bouncing. Again, another little trick to remember this for the exam. B is for ballistic and B is for bouncing. So it's a kind of bouncing movement to stretch. Okay, if you watch the video on the lesson, just click the link, you'll see a range of different ballistic stretches. So at the moment we've got static, and there's active or passive, and then we've got ballistic. There's one more that we're going to move on to now. Again, I want you to watch the video for this, okay, and just make a note of the key elements of the technique. They are simplified for you in 3 different steps. Okay, so we shorten it to PNF stretching. It stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. Okay, it's used to develop mobility, strength and flexibility within the muscles. This technique may be performed with the help of a partner, or again with an immovable object, so an object that's still and you can go against. So the first thing you need to do is you stretch that muscle to its upper limit, so it's the max that you feel you can stretch that, either your leg or your arm. Okay, you stretch it as far as you can. Then with the help of a partner, hold the muscle in an isometric contraction. That's where there's no active shortening or lengthening of the muscle, so you just hold it there, okay, for 6 to 10 seconds. The performer pushes against the partner. So if you've got your leg, you'll be pushing your leg against the partner, okay, who's holding you. The last bit of this would be to relax and stretch the muscle again, stretching further in the range of movement. So you relax for a little bit at the end, and then you try and stretch it as far as you can again, but this time trying to go further. Okay, after a few attempts you'll see that you get a bigger range of motion. Okay, watch the video and there'll be some great examples there to get that visually in your mind. Okay, so we now need to explore. So you've got your notes, and you can use these for this. You might get it explores where you're just trying to engage in what you learned. Okay, you're not really, you don't need to get everything right, but you're exploring and trying to work out what's good for this, what's good for that. So this is what we're going to do here. Describe how the different types of flexibility training would benefit the following athlete. So it could be on an A4 piece of paper. 100-meter sprinter, a gymnast and a high jumper. First of all, think, why do they need that component of fitness? Why would they need flexibility? Okay, think about the positions they need to get in. Think about when a high jumper jumps over that bar, what part of flexibility does he need, or she? Gymnast, try and be specific with your gymnast. There's lots of different events in gymnastics, so think about the different types of flexibility they would need. 100-meter sprinter, why is it important to have good flexibility? Think about those strides and how their arms and legs move. Okay, this is where you need to apply what you've learned. In previous lessons we have spoken about how we get advantages and disadvantages. Think about your cost, time, equipment, the variety. Can you vary it up so you don't get bored? Does it meet its purpose? Is it safe? Can you vary the intensity? Okay. Explain 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages for each method of training discussed today. So I want 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages for static stretching. 2 advantages, 2 disadvantages for ballistic stretching. And 2 advantages, 2 disadvantages for PNF stretching. Okay, again you can do this in little tables. You should have 3 tables for the 3 methods that we've spoken about. Okay guys, any questions? I will be online between 10 and 11 for this lesson. And lastly, just a little review for you guys. It's a simple true or false. Read the 5 statements on the left, write them out, and then next to them in capital letters put true or false. Okay? Always look at the success criteria of a lesson at the end and throughout to see if you're meeting those success criteria. So just give it a reg rating, red, amber, green. Do you understand? Make sure you put this down when you hand it in, and I'll be able to review then how successful you have learned about flexibility training. Okay guys, hope to see you soon. Stay safe. Remember, this will be on the YouTube channel also for you to look at. Make sure we subscribe.